Aloha, everybody. Welcome to the first of 4 Creative Lab music business webinars. My name is Charles Brotman. I'm a composer-producer here on Hawaii Island and director of the Creative Lab Music Immersive, also president of the Hawaii Songwriting Festival. I'd like to start out by thanking the Creative Industries Division of the state of Hawaii, Georgia and Tracy, for being so supportive of our music community and music creators here in Hawaii over the years. Today, we have 4 songwriters that have been through the Creative Lab Music Immersive program, and they all want to make sure that they understand how to collect the mechanicals that their music is generating. So fortunately for us today, we have a couple of experts on this. So let me start by introducing the artists here. The first up is Keilana Mokulehua, who recently had a few nice placements on national TV and won a couple of Hoku awards here. So Keilana, you want to say aloha?
Hi guys, good to see all of you. Super excited to dive into all of this, and again, thank you to Chris and Wrigley for being here, and Charles for putting this all together in Creative Lab. So I'm excited.
Next up, we've got Frederick Culp Jr. Freddie was in the last Creative Lab Music Immersive and was lucky enough to be in a co-write that turned out to be a pretty big hit. And I believe it was ranked as one of the top 10 placed songs in the year 2020. And it was on multiple advertisements, multiple national commercials, TV shows, including Grey's Anatomy. So Freddie, say hi.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here.
Okay, and then we have Sean Cleland, another award-winning artist from Honolulu, who again just recently won another Hoku Award and has a new album that's dropping next Friday. So Sean, say hi. Oops, you're muted.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
There you go.
Sean, thanks for having me. Super stoked, honored.
And we have Faith Rivera, singer-songwriter from Honolulu, who I know has been getting TV placements because we had a co-write that got placed a few weeks ago in NCIS Hawaii. So Faith, say hi.
Aloha, everybody, and just so grateful for everybody showing up. I say Songwriters, we got to thrive, right? So thank you. I'm excited to learn a lot today. Thanks.
Okay, next we have Raleigh Bushback. Did I say your name correctly?
You did. I'm impressed.
Okay, good. From the MLC customer support team. So Raleigh, thank you for being here, and thank you for everything your team does. And last but not least, definitely not least, is the CEO of the Music Licensing Collective, Chris Ahrend. And Chris, I'm gonna jump off here, or at least get out of the way and let you take the ball. So Chris, it's all yours.
Charles, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting us back. This is our 3rd or 4th event that we have done with Creative Lab and Hawaii creators. And I promise you, there are no shortage of people on our team ready and willing to jump on a plane and come out to Hawaii in person so we can do some of these in person. We may have to run a little lottery on that end, but I am confident that we will be there in person at some point in the next year or so we can meet in person. But for now, it's great to be back with you again. I'll also shout out, you have a fantastic Senator, Hirono, who has been very interested in the MLC from the beginning. When I was in Washington 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, right before COVID, I met with members of her staff. She was very interested in what we were doing. She's remained interested. And one of the events we did recently, she was a part of the panel. And that was pretty wild for me because it's not every day that I get to do a panel with a sitting senator. So I can tell you there is no other representative at that level who has taken that kind of personal interest in your community. And you should feel incredibly well represented and proud of the wonderful work that she and her team are doing on your behalf. So kudos to her. So we do lots of webinars, and as I was thinking about this one, we always like to start with a little bit of a deck because it's helpful, I think, to go through some of the basics. But rather than do a set of kind of slides that talk about what the MLC is, I'm going to assume you all have some sense of what we do, that we're a new music industry organization that administers mechanical royalties for digital services in the US. And we are the exclusive administrator of those rights. So if you're a songwriter and you handle your own publishing, meaning you collect the checks yourself, you don't have a publishing company that does that, you need to become a member of the MLC, because we're the only place that you can get the royalties, the mechanical royalties that are earned when your songs are streamed on services like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, or on a handful of smaller download services. Download services are also eligible for this blanket license that we administer. And we don't replace ASCAP or BMI or the PROs. So if you know about them, you should also have a relationship with a performing rights organization. They collect a different set of royalties. And if, like I think almost all of our songwriters today, you also perform, you should be connected with Sound Exchange, because Sound Exchange collects a set of royalties that relate to the use of your sound recordings on certain digital services and platforms. So again, you need all three of those, a PRO, the MLC on the publishing side, Sound Exchange on the sound recording side. And then of course, if you own your sound recordings, there are distributors like DistroKid or TuneCore that get your music up onto the services, and they pay you for the sound recordings too. So that's 4 ways that you as a self-managed creator can and should be getting paid. And we're one of those 4 now. So what I thought I would do was take a few minutes, hopefully not many, but I'm gonna try to rush through this and give you a quick sense of why data matters, because that's what we're gonna wind up talking about and hopefully looking at too tonight. So why does data matter, and what is data or metadata? What metadata do songwriters need, and why is it so important? Those are the 3 things we're going to cover really quickly. So I'm going to try to race through these slides. This presentation works really well in person, like TED Talk style, but I'm going to try to skip through it and get you through it so we can get on to the songwriters. So I'm sure a lot of you, or maybe some of you, are old enough to remember this book by Robert Fulghum. I like to say everything you need to know about metadata you learned when your parents sent you to kindergarten. And I'll show you why. This is a picture of me when I was a kid back in the 70s with my 2 sisters. And for the panelists with me, please jump in and help me with this. But what do you see in this picture that's unusual about kids? What is one of us wearing?
Tag.
Yes. So we're going to skip ahead and there it is, that tag. So what do you think was on that tag? This was my sister's first day of kindergarten.
Your sister's name.
Yes. What else though?
Oh, maybe your parents' address and phone number.
There you go. Like where you're going, Sean. Right. And why would she need to wear a tag with that kind of information when she goes off to school?
Because of something.
What was really important to my folks at the end of the day?
Having her back home.
The school get her back home. Exactly. So this tag had on it some really important information. Do you think this cut it?
Not specific enough.
Yes, and there are a couple of songwriter music related jokes in there. Not specific enough. So in reality, the tag would have had her first and last name, my mom's first and last name if she was the parent that was responsible for making sure she got home. And in that case, it was our home address. That's actually the MLC office address in Nashville, not my home address. So no letters to mom. That is our MLC office number, but that would have been her home number on the tag. And then her school bus route. Which bus does she need to get on at the end of the day to get her back home? Now, all of this information was actually data, though you may not have thought about it as data, but it was the data that the school used to get my sister back home after school. So what in the world does this have to do with your songs? Any ideas, panelists?
Getting the money to us for our songs.
Exactly. Exactly. Dolly Parton said it best. My songs are like my children. I expect them to support me when I'm old. But the way that they support you now and when you get old is by making the money that gets back to you so you can keep making songs. So just like a kid going off to kindergarten, it's really important when you finish writing a song that you think about and make sure that all of the places that pay you have the information or the data that they need in order to get that money back to you. And with us, you do that by registering your songs with the MLC. But you need to do that for any organization that pays you. So when I talked about performing rights organizations, you need to make sure that ASCAP or BMI or CSAC or GMR, whichever one you're affiliated with, you need to make sure they have the data for your songs. We need the data for your songs. Sound Exchange needs the data for your sound recordings. And of course, your distributor needs the data for the songs that you distribute through them, all so that they can get that money that your songs earn back to you. So metadata in this case is the data about your songs that we and other organizations that pay you need to identify the uses of your songs so that we can pay you when those songs are used. In other words, and in short, metadata equals money. And money is really important. So what metadata do songwriters need? So Faith, I went ahead and I took some of the metadata from one of your songs as an example. This is, again, a song by Faith Rivera. That's the album cover on the bottom. Faith, tell me I got the right Faith Rivera, because I made pretty sure I was looking at the right stuff. This is you, right?
That's me. You got it.
All right. I listened to the song. It was great a couple of times. So this is the metadata that Faith needs to register this song with us so that we can pay her. And what I want to do now quickly is go through these data points, because what you're going to see is it's not that complicated. This first group. So Faith, if I said to you, what's your name? You'd be like, yeah.
Faith.
What's your publishing company name? Because you have your own publishing company or DBA for your publishing business.
Yeah, Slow Girl Creations.
Right. And what's the name of the song?
Pure.
Right. Did you need to read this on a slide to know that?
No.
Of course not. You know that by heart. You probably know the names of all the songs you've ever written. You might take you a minute to kind of remember them all, but you could come up with that off the top of your head. This is not hard. These are not numbers or letters or characters. This is basic information about you, your songs, and in this one case, your publishing entity. You don't need a publishing entity. It's great if you have one. And most of you that are affiliated with a PRO and are self-administered probably were asked to provide one. So you already have it if you've done that with the PRO, and we can use the same one. Doesn't have to be an LLC, doesn't have to be a corporation. It's just an entity name that we use to identify you as a publisher versus as a writer. Because again, when you're self-administered, you wear two hats. You are both the creator and the person collecting the money for you as the creator. So those first three data points are really easy. Next couple. To any of our panelists, have you ever heard of an interested party information number or an IPI?
Yes.
Faith says yes. What about Sean or Freddie, Keilani?
Yeah.
Keilana?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone want to guess what is an IPI? What is it like? What number do all of us in the US get assigned at birth?
Like a social security number.
Exactly. So an IPI is like a social security number for you as a writer and for your publishing entity. It's just a unique numerical code that identifies you. If you signed up with a PRO, you have a writer IPI. And if you set up a publishing entity or a DBA with them, you also should have a publisher IPI. And that's all you need to know. It's a unique identifier for you, just like your social security number, but it's specific to the music business. So I don't expect you to have these memorized off the top of your head, but what I would suggest is if you have business cards, put your writer IPI on the business card and make sure your name is listed the way your name is listed in our database or yours with that IPI. So Faith, we're going to get to this in a minute, but you actually, when you take credit as a writer, you use a different version of your name. It's not Faith Rivera. What is it?
Well, I mean, my full name with ASCAP is Esther Faith Rivera.
Exactly. And that's actually the name with your IPI. I didn't put that here, probably should have, my bad. But you want people to know that name. The reason for that is that that name is the name associated with that IPI. And if that name is the one that's out in the world for your credits, we want to make sure we match that. Now, if you are crediting yourself as Faith Rivera, not Esther Faith Rivera, you may have a second IPI for that second version of your name.
I do.
Okay. And I may have used the wrong one. I'm not sure. We can look at that. But the point is, you have a name that's associated with that IPI number, and you want to put that on your business cards, because when you write with people, they may not know your full name is Esther Faith Rivera. But if that's the name you use and you want that to show up when they register a song or you register a song, it's good for them to know that, especially at the PROs, where often the first person to register provides all the information for everybody. You don't want to be in a situation where they give you the name that they call you. Like maybe you go by the nickname Faye sometimes. And so someone's like, oh, I was writing with Faye Rivera the other day. And next thing you know, they've got some song of yours listed in their database and your name is Faye Rivera. But Faye Rivera doesn't match Faith Rivera, so that might prevent you from getting paid. So that's why this is important.
Okay.
Let's keep flying through these. Next to these are unique codes that we, the MLC, identify or assign to your song and to you as a publisher. We do that in part because not everyone has a publisher IPI, or as you'll hear in a minute, a unique identifier for your song, the ISWC. So we assign these so that our systems will work effectively for any songwriter, regardless of whether they've got these other numbers or not. We don't manage the IPI system, so we can't assign them for you right now, but we use them if you have them. So again, these two numbers are numbers that we'll assign when you sign up for us or when a song is registered that you've written. You don't arrive with that. That's something we do or we assign. I think somewhere I skipped the slide that talked about the ISWC and the Isrc. So forgive me, I'll just quickly mention, those are two unique codes for your song and your recording. ISWC for works, Isrc for recordings. And those are assigned either by your record distributor or by your PRO. Not every song has an ISWC. Faith, from what I could tell, Pure does not yet have an ISWC assigned. I didn't see it. It was listed as not assigned in ASCAP's database. So that's okay. But that's why the MLC song code is helpful, because we assign that unique code to your song. That way we can distinguish from other songs that may have similar names, even if we don't have an ISWC. But this last one on the screen is the really important one. And this is the percentage of royalties that you receive every time that work is streamed. And I just took the percentage that was in our database, Faith. That may or may not be right, and that's okay. We want you to always know what we think your share is and make it really easy for you to find so that you can tell us, hey, wait a minute, that's wrong. And if it is, you fix it. And if it's right, you're like, they've got the right percentage, everything's good.
Can I ask you though, is that percentage supposed to just represent my writers or my publishers or both? Because it's
fantastic question.
It's only one half.
Right, fantastic question. So one of the things that makes mechanicals tricky is that unlike performance royalties are split between writers and publishers into what's known as a writer share and a publisher share.
Mm-hmm.
That's why if any of you are assigned to a publisher, you can and still should become a member of a PRO, because basically half the money they collect for your songs gets paid directly to you. It can't get paid to a publisher or to some other company. They only pay you directly. On the mechanical side, we don't do that. There is no split between writer and publisher share. There's simply a mechanical share. That's why for you, Faith, if you're self-administering your songs, you get all the money for your share. You don't get half of it, and you don't have to register it half and half with us. You can simply register your full share, probably in this case 33 1/3, because I believe you have two co-writers, and then you get all of that money. If you had a publisher, they would collect all that money, and then they would pay you whatever your share of it was under your publishing deal. So if you had a 75% split where you get 75% of the mechanicals, they'd pay you 75% of that third, and they'd keep 25. So for self-administered writers, this share should be the total share out of 100 that you get. There's no writer share or publisher share. It's all your mechanical share.
So it should be 33 or what, that number
Yes.
you said.
Exactly. And part of why I have Raleigh here is because we're going to make sure after this event tonight, she's going to connect with you in person. And we're going to make sure you know how to change that share to the right amount so that you get paid all your works, all your royalties.
Sweet.
And the other thing I'll tell you while we're talking about this song is it looks like one of your other co-writers registered it, and we have 2 registrations. That's not uncommon. So we also want to make sure we merge those 2 registrations in our database so that all of the shares are tied to a single registration. Because right now, if we match our uses of this song to your registration, your co-writer won't get paid. And if we match them to your co-writer's registration, you won't get paid. So we want to put those together, and we can also help you with that after the presentation.
Cool.
Not tonight, but next
Yeah.
week.
Thank you.
All right. So here were the last ones, the ISWC and the ISRC. And again, these are like social security numbers for your song and for the recordings that feature your songs. So if we kind of go back over all of that, what you'll see is there are these different identifiers that act like social security numbers for your song, for you as a writer, for you as a publisher, and for your recording or the recordings that feature your songs. Right? They each look a little bit different, but they all have the same function. They are unique identifiers. And then there's your name, your song name, your publishing entity, and your collection share. And then if you know the name of the recording, it'd be the name of the recording. Often it's the same, though interestingly here, some of the versions of this song, some of the recordings, Faith, had this title, Pure, in parens, Annie's song, whereas the registrations of the song just said Pure. So that's a good example of how sometimes the recording title and the song title don't match completely. It's okay, just you want to know that. So that's it. And I know I went fast, and I'll pause to see if any of the panelists have questions, but if you understand these basic concepts, you know everything you need to know to register your works with us and any other organization that pays you as a songwriter and to get paid. Questions? Freddie.
I have a question. I'll save it because I'm not sure if it.
Okay. Nicole, I see you got a question in the Q&A. Thanks for using that. I promise we will get to that when we start talking to the panelists about their songs, because your question relates to Sean, and we'll be able to answer it for you and for Sean. So last section here, why does this all matter? So what we do, let me see if I skipped ahead. Right. Essentially, we get a whole lot of data from the digital services, and it's usually keyed to the sound recordings because that's how they put products out in the world. They put recordings up on the service. They, of course, feature your songs, but they market them around the recording information. So we get all that data. We then match it to your song data, and that's essentially how we pay you. It's making the connection between recordings and songs, and then the uses of recordings on specific products with those songs. And that's what leads to the money. So why is this also important other than it gets you paid? Remember the kindergarten example. Panelists, how many sound recordings do you think are available on the biggest streaming services in the US right now? Take a guess.
Millions of songs? I don't know.
Sure. Give me a number in the millions.
3 million? I don't know.
That's okay. Good for good. Keilana.
Like 400.
400 million? That's okay. This is like playing The Price is Right, where, it's like she went low, you're going to go high. Sean or Freddie, you want to come in the middle at all?
And I'll go right down the middle, like 200 million.
All right.
But I do feel like it's hundreds. Oh, okay.
It's actually not quite there, but it's getting close. Upwards of 75 million recordings are on these major services. Those are the numbers. Now, if these services, if the sound recordings were people and they were countries, to put this into context, these services would rank as the 20th largest countries in the world. As many songs as there are people in Germany and Turkey, Thailand, the UK, France. That's a lot of people. So now remember the original metaphor, right? Your song is like a kid. If you had a kid, would you send your kid to Germany with no identifying information? Of course not. You'd be like, holy crap, like I gotta tag that kid left, right, and sideways, and I need to give him a bunch of money, and you'd be calling them every day, twice, 3 times a day, like, are you okay? Where are you? What's going on? Because you want your kid to get home. And the idea that you're going to send your kid to a country halfway around the world filled with 80+ million people is really intimidating. It's the same way with your song. Every time you write a song, you're sending that song out into the world where once it's recorded, it is going to be sitting alongside 70 to 75 million other songs. And we need to be able to find your song on those recordings in order to get you paid. We do this matching of songs to those 70 to 75 million recordings every month. And we've got almost 24 million songs in our database now, growing. So that gives you a sense of how massive this music industry landscape now is. And the great thing is we all have access to it for the first time ever. When I was a kid, I could write songs and record songs, and I did. But all those things did was wind up in my car stereo on cassette tape, because that was it. And maybe I could make a couple of copies for friends, but I wasn't getting my cassette tape into Tower Records. You can now get your songs up onto these massive global services where they're out there available for anyone in the world to listen to. But the key is, without that data, that handful of data we talked about, there's not a chance that money's getting back to you. And that's why the data matters. So again, metadata equals money. That's why all this is so important. All right. How are we doing? So let's start with Faith. Faith, you are a pretty prolific songwriter. From the works that we have in our database alone, you've written and had recorded more than 100 songs, 121 to be exact. You may have written more than that. I'm sure you've written more than that. But you've been writing songs for a long time.
Yes.
Or you are literally like a genius and you've written 120 songs in the last month. But how long have you been writing songs? Without revealing your age, but like...
Well, I mean, since 8th grade. So that was my first song. So I'm way out of that grade.
And when did you create your publishing company or your publishing entity, Little Girl Creations? When did you come up with that?
My first album, which
Wow.
was like 97, I think. Yeah.
Wow. So you've been at the game for 20 years.
I have.
That's
I have.
amazing.
And so it's amazing that like you popped up. I'm like, what is the MLC? Like,
Right. Well, because, a year ago, we weren't yet operational. 2 years ago, we didn't exist. 3 years ago, we were a twinkle in some congressperson's eye because they were still figuring out if they were going to pass legislation to create us. So all this is brand new in the last 3 years. And,
I really want everyone to know, because sometimes it's intimidating. Sorry, my daughter's coming here. Sorry, baby. It's intimidating when you hear all this information. You don't know what the heck it means. But your team, including Raleigh, have been incredible. I mean, literally like walked my hand, to get the sheets done well. And we just feel like you really care and you're behind us. So it just means a lot. So thank you.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Well,
Because it was impossible to register, hundreds of songs. And so thank you.
It is hard. And that's one of the downsides is the music business has gotten more complicated. It is time consuming, if nothing else, but it can be confusing, especially for someone that didn't get into the business to do this. You got in the business to write songs, to be creative, to make music, to connect with other creators. And the business is very different from that experience. And for you all, as self-administered creators, you've got to be able to shift back and forth from wearing that creative hat and taking those risks and putting yourself out there to then doing this kind of work to make sure that you get paid for the great things you've done so you can keep making those songs. So it is hard, but you touched on service, and I will ask Raleigh to say a couple words, but about how we've made service a priority, because it is not by accident that we have the service team we do. And it makes me very happy when I hear you, or I saw someone in the chat recognize that, because it was a huge part of our strategy from the very first day. Raleigh, tell us a little bit about being on the support team and what you enjoy about it and how the team does what they do, how long they're open every day.
Yeah, happy to. I think everyone on the support team really cares about songwriters and helping them. I think that is kind of our base starting point. Is just everybody actually wants to help the people that are calling in. And so we are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. And one of the main things that stood out to me while I was on the team was people saying it's so nice to actually talk to a human being. Because I know not just in the music industry, in a lot of industries, it's really hard to get a customer service live human being on the phone. And like Chris has touched on, these things can be confusing. And so to try and figure it out through an automated message can be really hard. So I think it's really awesome that we have this team that really cares about songwriters, and we're willing to sit there with you on the phone or chat or email. We have all three for as long as you need, and really want to help you get all of your metadata correct, and we'll be here to help you along the way.
And that team in this year alone has had more than 22,000 contacts with people. So 22,000 emails or phone calls or chats. We're averaging several thousand a month. We've got about 20 people on that team. It's now our second largest team, only to our matching team. But up until about a month ago, they were the largest team on our company, and they had been from the beginning. And we built that team because we knew that the only way for us to be successful was to be available and to be able to help answer whatever questions you have. So, when you call us, know that we'll try to answer any question about the music business you ask. It doesn't have to be about the MLC. We won't pretend to be experts in sound exchanges business, but we'll definitely help explain what they do versus what we do. So know that any question you have is fair game. And if we can't answer it on the spot, we'll get back to you. And and it's always a human being. It's always one of our employees. It's not, a random company we hired that goes between answering questions for you and then order questions for Amazon and then doctor office questions. It's our team, and this is all they do. So Faith, your catalog, what I was so excited about was you've got all these songs that are registered, you're set up, you're payable. We are paying you, right? You're receiving checks from the MLC or payments?
Yeah, yes. And that's what I want to ask you, because it says my publishing name, Little Girl Creations, and I understand it's all one lump sum. So it's not like I'm missing the Faith Rivera writer side of it, right?
Correct.
Because I don't see my name in those statements. It's just, my business. Okay.
Yes. When you sign up with us, you could sign up as Faith Rivera and set up your account that way. But because you use that publishing entity name in the world already, it's better for you to sign up and list your member name as that publisher name, which is what you've done. Okay. Because again, when you are connected to us, you're actually connected to us as your own publisher. But it's all the money. And the only thing you have to make sure is that the shares that are registered represent your full share. So again, that one example of Pure, we want to make sure we get that fixed and get your percentage changed to 33 1/3 versus 16.
Yes.
So I'm going to share my screen, and we talked about this before, and you were cool with this because I have the ability to show all of you what Faith's account looks like behind the scenes. So when she logs on, this is the view that she sees as a member, right, Faith?
Yes.
All right. And you'll see down this side in the menu, we have the summary. This is the 121 works that are in her catalog. She has one team member. It's her. And, for a lot of you, you're a team of one, right? Which is what makes what you do so amazing, because you're writing, you're recording, you're performing, and you're managing your business. But if you wanted to add folks, Faith, you mentioned there was a kid in the background. If your kid's old enough that they can do some of this stuff for you, you can make your kid a team member and they can help you. Okay. If you've got a friend who's good with this sort of stuff and you want to sign them up, you can have other team members, even if you don't technically have a company. You get to authorize those people in this member settings section. You can make them a user, and then they can have access to this as well. But underneath the catalog side, this is where you can register individual works, or if you want to register works by uploading a bunch of data in Excel, which is not as hard as it sounds, and our support team can help you do it. We can do a bulk work registration where you basically upload all that data and it automatically puts it into the places you need to register. You can see your registration history in the drafts. In the royalties section, that's where you see how much you got paid each month. You can see your statements, and you can then essentially request that we send you copies of any statements for any period going back as long as we've been doing this since January, the April distribution. And you can see the rate sheets that show all of the information the digital services provide us about their total royalty pool. And basically that's all the data points that we need to figure out how much a single play is worth in royalties on that service each month. So if you're interested in kind of seeing the bigger picture, like total number of subscribers or the royalty pool, whatever those numbers are, they're all in that rate sheet. That's for everybody on the service that month. And then the bottom line is the amount per play that you and everyone else gets for each time your work is streamed. This is the tool I want to talk about, though, because we just launched this last month. And this is, I think, a really exciting tool. The matching tool allows you to search all of the unmatched uses of sound recordings that we have accumulated but have not yet connected to one of your works. So these are basically the monies that we can't yet pay out because we know there was a song, but we don't know which song it was. So we're going to do a little search here by way of example. We're going to use Faith as that example. So we can show her and all of you real time how you can help us make those connections and find money for you. So all I've done here is I've put Faith's name in the recording artist field because you are also a recording artist, correct, Faith?
Yes, and I'd be interested in seeing songwriter, meaning like, because that's different, right? If other people cut my
Absolutely.
stuff.
So we're going to start with this because it's an easy way to do it.
Okay.
If you're a writer who also performs, because we're looking at sound recording data. So often the writer data is missing. So you could search by writer name, but you will see less, right? So we start by putting in your name. And lo and behold, I believe, and you'll tell me, at least some of these songs, hopefully all these are songs that you've recorded. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the question is, are you a writer? Now, if you look down this column, what you'll see is a lot of these do not have writer names. So that means that the sound recording got out in the world, but there was no tag on the kid. So that money is floating out there because we don't know how to get it back home because we don't have any information from the DSP about the writer. So this again underscores how that data is really important. You may not have done anything wrong here, Faith. I don't want you to think that, but it just shows how if your stuff gets out in the world and that writer name is not there, that may prevent us from making that connection. The good news is you now can search for those things and be like, look, that is absolutely my song. And if you wrote it, then as long as you've registered Honolulu City Lights, you will be able to propose a match. We're going to show you how that works.
Cool.
I went down here, though, to Pure, Annie's song, because that was the first one I saw that had your name in the writer field, along with these two other writers. And I thought, well, let's just start with that one. So if you click on this little caret, what happens is it now shows you one of the services that has reported streams of this song, but for which we have not made that connection to any work in our database. So this is money, royalties that we are holding because we have not made that connection. The dollar sign, if you go up here, it gives you the estimated value. I know this is not super exciting. It's less than $1, not a big deal. But if every one of those is $1, right, it adds up. And then once you make this connection, we're going to keep paying you every month. So it can be valuable even if it's low dollar stuff. But this song is one of yours, and it's beautiful. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, all right, let's just focus on Pure. So now that I've gotten that, I'm going to take the Isrc. I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to paste it right into the Isrc field. And remember, this is the unique identifier or the social security number for a sound recording. So now I hit search again, and all I see are the uses of that sound recording with that Isrc that we have not yet matched. And what's interesting is in this instance, the songwriter stuff is listed. So that came from the DSPs. But YouTube, Spotify, and Qobuz did not have the writer information. Now, here's what's fun. If you click on the listen button, and actually, I think I did this too quickly, so I'm going to unshare it quickly because I don't want to deprive any of you of the the good part. We're going to click on listen. This just opened a link to YouTube. That's your song. Hear it? So we're now listening to Faith's song. That means that you can hear the song that's represented. And I'm betting for most of you, even if you weren't so comfortable with the data and you're like, I'm not really sure I'm looking at, when in 2 seconds, Faith, did you know that was your song?
Yes. Yes.
And if we wanted to double check it against Spotify, we click on that link. And now same thing up on Spotify. Spotify makes you hit play. And that's you. Mm-hmm. So now you've been able to confirm by listening that this data relates to a song of yours that you've written, but that for which we couldn't make that connection. Mm-hmm. And if you looked at this one, you could see the data is pretty similar. We don't yet have a link for Amazon, but you could click on the details button and then it shows you a little more information about the song that we got from the digital service. And let's just assume that this is the right song. I believe it is. It seemed like it for you? Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes.
So now we're going to select these 2 groups.
Cool.
And you're going to match them. Let's continue matching. So now you're going to look for the song in your catalog that matches that. So we know that song has the title Pure, and we know that you are also the writer. So we're going to put those 2 things in search, and lo and behold, there's your registration.
Okay, yes.
It's in your catalog.
Mm-hmm.
16% we're going to fix, but that's yours. So all we do now is we hit select, confirm, and we just live matched those 2 sound recording uses, those groups, to your song, which means that as soon as next month in January, and if not in February, you're going to get paid those royalties that were unpaid.
Cool. That is so cool. Thank you.
So this is a really, I think, helpful and practical tool that every one of our rights holders can use to both find those unmatched uses and also to help us make those connections between your data. Because here's the trick, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Go back again to those numbers, 24 million songs, 75 million sound recordings. Any of us, whether it's the MLC or a publisher administrator, right? That's a lot of songs to go through and to make those matches on. But if we narrow it to you, Faith, and your 121 songs, who knows those 121 songs better than you? No one.
No.
And who stands to benefit when we make those matches? Or put another way, how much money did the MLC just make when I matched those 2 song groups for you?
I don't know, but I'll take it.
MLC made 0.
Oh, you mean, but now until
you
later.
You made
yes.
all of the money because we pay 100% of the royalties to you. We don't take an admin fee. The DSPs pay all of our operating costs. So in that moment, if you choose to use that tool, every time you propose a match, if we confirm that and then we start paying you royalties, you just made 100% of the money. So by giving you a really easy to use self-help tool like that, you can now play a part in helping us be successful for you. We're still going to do all the work we do. And we've got now 20 plus people doing matching, plus all the algorithms, the computer stuff. But despite all of that, you can still do what we just did now, probably as effectively or more than we will ever do it, be able to do it. And every time you do it, you're making yourself money.
I am so doing that all tonight.
Yeah.
Can I ask you though, I don't know if this is the time to answer this.
Yes,
but,
go for it.
You know, you had mentioned on the other webinars that, you know, each month you're paying us for that current time, but you had mentioned about possible back pay because, you know, I've had a catalog for so long. Is that still something in the mix? Is that?
Absolutely. So each month we pay you the newly reported royalties for songs that were used on the service. And we now go back and we try to match again any unmatched uses. So what that means is, let's say, to use the example we just did, for those 2 groups of sound recordings, we probably have royalties going back to January for those songs, the uses of those songs on those 4 services, because that that song has been around for a bit, right? You released that
Yes.
a number of years
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
So we're now going to pay you all the royalties that we have back to January.
Got it.
And then as we keep running the process, we'll always be looking to match anything that was unmatched in the past, plus all the new uses. Right now, it goes back to January because that's when the blanket license began. But we also have this small pool of money you may have heard about, $424 million in historical royalties that we've been working on pretty actively now for the past few months, now that we got all the blanket stuff set up. And next year, we're going to start processing that too. So that match you just made is not only going to help you get paid for the blanket royalties we've collected, but if we find that song pure in any of that historical data, we're also going to match and pay all of that too.
Okay.
So using that matching tool is going to help make that connection for all the money going forward and all the money going back, including any portion of that 424 million that relates to your songs.
Amazing.
It's all one stop. So yes, all of that historical stuff is also going to get pulled into the mix. We just had to start by building the process going forward, because when the law was passed, it said, yeah, you're going to get all that money in February, but you've got to start paying songwriters the royalties on new uses as of January 1st. And you got to do that starting in April. So from the time January 1st arrived, we literally had 4 months to get everything finished, up and running, and then send out our first distribution in April, around April 14th. And here's the good news. We've done this 8 times now since then. Every single month, it's been on time or early, never late. So like clockwork, 75 days after the end of each month, you're going to get a royalty check from us for all the royalties for that month, and then any for the prior months that we could match. Great question.
You're rocking it. Thank you.
Let's keep rolling through the others. So Sean, you work with an admin company, correct?
Yeah, CD Baby.
Right. And one of the questions we had in the Q&A from Nicole was, if my songs are done through CD Baby, are they already doing it for me, the mechanical royalties? Great question. Similar question, Daniel, what's the main difference between the MLC and Song Trust? So let's talk about those two questions. CD Baby is both a distributor of sound recordings. So I'm guessing, Sean, that you make music as a performer in addition to writing songs?
Yes.
So when you make those recordings of your songs, you use CD Baby to get the sound recordings up onto the digital services, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And a lot of services do that. TuneCore is another that people know about. DistroKid is a popular one. SoundCloud also allows you to do this, to upload things. These companies, these aggregators of sound recordings, some of them also offer publishing administration services. But in almost every instance that I know of, if not all, you have to choose to let them do that too. So you might be using CD Baby, but if you haven't signed up for, I believe they call it CD Baby Pro, they're not collecting your publishing royalties. They're only collecting your sound recording royalties. So if you use a company like CD Baby or TuneCore, you want to check to see if you've checked that box and ask them to collect your publishing. If you have, then they will pay you these mechanicals. They're acting just like a publisher. And so for you right now, Sean, you don't have to do anything. CD Baby should be paying you your mechanicals because they are members of the MLC too. Yeah. But if you ever decided you wanted to do one on your own, you can switch that around and you can then set all those songs up to run through us, and then we can pay you directly. It's entirely your choice. There's no right answer. It just depends on how much time you want to spend dealing with this. And also some factors like, are your songs available in other countries? One of the limits for the MLC is that we can only administer songwriter mechanical royalties in the US because we were created by US law. So if your stuff, Sean, is up in multiple countries, which it could be, because it's really easy to get your stuff up and say to, CD Baby, I'm good with it going up globally. And if someone streams your song in France, you may earn a mechanical there, but we don't have the right to collect that. So companies like CD Baby, their CD Baby Pro service, they can help you collect in multiple countries. And sometimes songwriters think, well, you know what? If I'm going to have them collect in 10 other countries, I might as well just let them do all of it. And then it just makes it easier. So if you're using CD Baby or TuneCore, know that you may also have checked the box to have them collect your publishing. And that's fine, and we'll pay them for you, but you can also sign up directly with us.
Okay. Yeah. I noticed all my stuff. I was telling Charles earlier, all of my tunes were populated on your website when I did the search, but I created a login, but I didn't match anything. It was already populated because of CD Baby, I guess, you know.
Yeah. Well, and let's go take a look, because proof's in the pudding. So this is our website, www.themlc.com. And if you click on this yellow button at the top that says public search, that'll take you to a search bar. And if we just go in here in the writer field and we put in your name, immediately we see there are 37 songs registered with us under your full writer name, Sean Gregory Cleland, and you can see your IPIs there. And then there's one, I wondered if you'd recognize this.
Yeah, that's not me.
Is that not you, violin plucking?
There's another guy in Chicago with the exact same spelling, same name. He's
All the more reason that you should use Gregory and then your IPI. So good for you. Sometimes we see those overlaps mixed in, like we might see 20 songs for Sean Cleland and some of them are yours and some of them are his. Not great. But here in this case, you've got 37 titles. And again, anyone can do this. So Sean, you can do this right now. It's all the same data. And what you can see when we click on this first song, Chroma, is you're the writer, your publisher is listed, Sean Cleland Music, but here we can see the administrator is CD Baby Alpha. That's one of their entities, and 100% of the publishing is set up to go to them. So this tells you that they are collecting that money from you. They haven't left any on the table. All the shares are claimed, and you should be in good shape. Now, if you said, wait a minute, I canceled my deal with CD Baby 5 years ago, then this would tell you I've got a problem because they're still collecting my money 5 years later. So even if you use a publisher or an administrator, you can still search for your stuff in the public database. It's all the same data that Faith sees when she searches or sees it in her catalog, but it shows you who that administrator is. And that way you can confirm that the right people are set up to collect your money.
I do have a quick question related to this. So if I tried typing in the publisher, Sean Cleland Music LLC, and it didn't pop up with 37 tunes. Is that because there's some sort of matching issue between the writer and the publisher?
No, I didn't look through all these, but here's an example. Hold Me Close, Keep Far Away. So in this case, it looks like that song was registered under the publisher name Hollow Spears Music. Is that another entity you've used before?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
And so that's why we have 37 songs where you are listed as the writer, but not all of those songs list your company, Sean Cleland Music LLC, as the publisher. Now, there could be other data issues, and we'd certainly need to look at those one by one, but that's my kind of immediate guess as to why the numbers may differ. And, if you run into questions like that, Raleigh?
I was just going to jump in. So the way that the public search works is because technically your publishing entity is a sub-payee of CD Baby, it won't come up as its own publisher. So it'll only come up when you're searching it through CD Baby. It won't come up as you as the sole publisher.
Yeah, that's what I figured that's what it was, because it was 0 on Sean Cleland Music LLC, but then when I switched to the writer search, it all comes out. Yeah.
So it'll pull up everything with the writer name, but because it's technically under CD Baby and not your own publishing as its own administrator, that's why it's showing 0 results.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we talked about Nicole's question, Daniel's question. Robert Atkinson, does BMI or ASCAP go through the MLC, or is the MLC in place of those companies? Neither. Again, BMI and ASCAP are performing rights organizations. They collect performing royalties for you as a songwriter. Those are different from the mechanical royalties that we collect. So the MLC does not replace them, and they can't collect for you the royalties we collect. So Robert, you need both of us, or whichever of those two companies you work with. Maybe you work with both, but you need your PRO and you need the MLC. And again, if you contact our support team, we'd be happy to help you get signed up. But if I go back here to our website, this middle button, the blue button that says connect to collect, all you need to do is click that button, and that will take you to the first screen where you can begin the membership process. So you can literally go to our website right now after this call, and you can complete the membership process on your own. If you have questions, you can call our support team, though they're wrapping up for the night now. It's 8 o'clock, but they'll be available as early as you wake up in the morning. So you can call them first thing in the morning if you have any questions, okay?
Chris, I have a question, if that's
Please,
possible.
yes, you're going to be next. So go ahead.
So as you're talking, I'm actually looking at the MLC website myself and doing the public searches because I work as a performing artist, a songwriter for film and sync placements and stuff, but then also as a recording artist / singer-songwriter for myself. So as I'm looking on here, I do have a publishing company entity that I use. So I looked that up and I found some work, and so all of my sync like co-writing stuff I can see on here. But then like as a recording artist, say for example, I released an album last year and I wrote 100% of those songs. So when I'm looking up my name as a songwriter, I don't see any of them on here. So what would that mean?
That may mean that those songs have not been registered with us.
I see.
And that means that we need to get that data in order to make sure you're paid as a songwriter. So
Right.
again, go back to the deck and the kind of explanation of the tag, right?
Yeah.
When that song goes out in the world, if we don't get that information on the tag on our end, we don't know that song exists. We have no way of knowing that. We can see the evidence of it because we might have those sound recording uses that appear to suggest that there's a song that you've been involved with. And we might even see your name in the writer field, but if there's no work in our database to match it against, then that just hangs out there. It's like an orphan song. So again, another great thing about the public search is you can literally, anybody in the world can search for any song that they've written. And if it doesn't show up, that means we don't have the data. And that means we can't pay you or your publisher or your administrator, whoever it is that should be paid. So that's your cue then to connect with us and make sure that song gets registered. So again, afterward, next week, we'd love to connect with you and figure out whether we need to get you signed up as a member. We would love to do that. Sounds like you may self-administer for at least some of your songs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So let's get you signed up and see if we can find some money for you and then get you connected so that as those songs are streamed in the future, you get paid.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Freddie, I think your situation is similar, so I don't want to leave you out, especially since you're a Yankees fan just like me. Were you originally from New York? Someone in your family had a New York connection?
No, I just like the hat.
All right, it's a style thing. Good looking hat.
Yeah, just for
I'm a Jeter Yankees fan back in the day. It's been a while, but so you also had a few songs in our database, not many, but like Keilana, we can work with you to get those that membership set up if you self-administer. Do you know right now, like, do you handle your own stuff or do you work with someone?
For the, I think it's the Keep You Safe song that I worked with Secret Road, the record label. So I don't know really in detail what their role was, but I do know that when I would get the checks, it would come from BMI, and I'm not sure if that.
So you're getting performance royalties.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe not mechanicals.
Yeah.
And you said the song was Keep You Safe, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. So I got a little, let's go to the videotape to use the baseball analogy. So I just went into the public search and I looked up your song, Keep You Safe. And then I went to refine search and I put in your last name in the writer field because there could be lots of songs called Keep You Safe, but I want to find yours. So I did that. I hit refine. And sure enough, the first song that comes up is your song. But what do you notice here? Total known shares are how much?
75.
And how many writers were on the song?
4.
Right. So little basic math will tell you that one of the 4 writers' shares is not set up. And when we look, we start to see there's a couple of publishers listed, one less traveled music, Incognito Street, Eleanor Ray, administered by Incognito, Vi Records, One Less Traveled Music, 12 Noon Publishing. Do any of those entities ring a bell for you?
Yeah, so 12 Noon is my publishing.
Okay, so Incognito Street Music is then collecting, it looks like part of your share. What's interesting is it only looks like part of it. So it could be that they've only set up a part of it, thinking again, they were only collecting the publisher share, not your share, which is not a mechanical concept. But the bottom line is 75% of the shares are claimed, but obviously that means 25% are missing. So it'll be interesting, and we can work with you offline to figure out which shares are missing. It could be that half of your share is missing and half of Dominique's is missing. Usually when you see an IPI listed, that's a good sign, a good tell that Simone's was registered, because it would be unusual for us to have your IPI but not have your share registered. Usually the publisher will have that and they'll provide it. But for Dominique and for Lindsay and for you, it looks like someone else may have provided some of that information. And again, we just want to make sure that we know how you should be getting paid your 25%, and then make sure that that's set up so you can be paid.
Okay.
And again, this is a great example of how you can look up any song you've been involved with. And if you put your name in or a co-writer name, you can pretty quickly figure out if it's in the database or not. And then if it is, whether all the shares are claimed or not. So there's a lot of easy detective work you can do on your own just by going to the public search. And, it's your stuff. So hopefully for you, it's kind of fun because you're like, right, I wrote the song with these people. And then you recognize some of these company names. But as always, if you have questions, you just call our support team and we'll help you out. So we are at the end of the hour. It's easy on our end to go a little later, but I want to be respectful of the time of anyone that has to leave. Charles, do you know if we're okay?
I think we're okay, Chris. I just don't want to, I know it's later for you guys on your end, so just want to be respectful of that.
Let's see if we can get the rest of the Q&A. And I see one KC who put one in the chat. Do you services also work well for Hawaiian and Polynesian musicians? And I'm wondering if you're getting at, let's see, we work with all songwriters. Part of why we do these webinars is to try to reach people in more distant places who may not be aware of us. So we're here in part to try to reach folks in those places, and please share with them what you've heard tonight, spread the word. But know too that we'd love to do more events like this. So if there are other ways we can reach people in those communities, please let us know. And as Charles has seen, we will hop on a webinar on a moment's notice. We love doing these because they're really easy for us to do. And we can reach people immediately and then answer lots of questions. And you can get to meet my cat, who loves it when I'm on webinars. That's the one time she pays attention. So please, KC, know that we're trying to reach everybody. That's why we're here, but we can always do more. And we would love your help in spreading the word or in letting us know how we can reach more Hawaiian and Polynesian creators. Panelists, you can interrupt at any time. Yes, Keilana.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I would just love to say for, any Hawaiian, local, whatever, if you are based out here in Hawaii, definitely stay connected with Creative Lab Hawaii, Creative Industries, and the Hawaii Songwriting Festival, because I can speak on behalf of tons of us, artists and songwriters out here where, we're not really well versed and know this kind of stuff. And so being able to have an opportunity like this to speak, with the leaders of the MLC are really, really helpful. So if you are just kind of like frazzled and you don't know what's going on or any of this, the first step would be to just follow along with Creative Lab Hawaii and the Hawaii Songwriting Festival, just to get your feet wet and understand, because of course some of this is very, further along, but this is definitely something that can be a resource to all of us here in Hawaii. So that's just something I really need to stress, is this is stuff for all of us. It's inclusive, yeah.
And those organizations have been so fantastic. Again, there's a reason why we've done so much with Hawaii. It's because those organizations are fantastic and they've connected with us. And and there's a lot to learn, but you can do this. So again, one step at a time, 1 hour at a time. we also do webinars all the time for members. So once you become a member, every month we do webinars solely for self-administered songwriters. You can come to every one every month. We usually last an hour and a half. We answer all the questions you ask. So just know that anytime you connect with us, like there's a chance to learn more. Ahrend, you're a member of Songtrust. Is there a reason to also register with us? So Songtrust is a company that solely handles publishing administration. So if you're signed up with them, that means they're already collecting your publishing royalties, probably in lots of countries, and not just mechanicals, but maybe other types of publishing royalties. So I would check with them, but you should not need to also become a member of the MLC if you're happy with Songtrust. Songtrust is also a member of the MLC. Some of their leaders were just in town the other day. We had breakfast with them. They're great. And again, part of what you need to do is figure out how to set up your business. So for a lot of songwriters, partners like Songtrust are a great way to go because they're really good at what they do. They'll get you paid, and that saves you time. But know that you can always connect with us. There's always a direct option, and we're always happy to talk with you, even if you're working through Songtrust. You can still call our support team. Robert, how do I change a CD Pro publisher to become a personal publisher? You have to contact CD Baby. I don't know how their kind of contracts work and what ability you have to kind of end those relationships. But I know you can call their support team and they can tell you. Usually they're relatively short terms. It could be 12 months. But again, know that they're really good too. I've gotten to know some of the leaders over there, and they may be a great solution for you. So like a lot of things in life, I always joke, it's like taxes. I don't ever do my taxes, and it's not because I don't think I could do it. It's because I hate doing it. And I'd rather pay someone who's really good at it, who does it all the time, every day, to do it for me, so I don't have to worry about it. Same thing with this. If you're looking at this after today's session and you're like, this is terrible, I don't want to have anything to do with this, get a good partner and you will be well suited, and you won't have to lose sleep over any of this. All right. Anonymous, sounds like it might be valuable to create a login to search for unmatched uses. Well, I will tell you that data, the unmatched data, we're going to add that to the public search early next year. We just launched this in October as a beta for members. So I would tell you, don't do that just to get access, because we're going to give you access. The only reason you need access as a member is if you want to make those matches, those suggestions. So really, that's the only thing that you would gain by being in the portal. And of course, if you don't have your own songs registered because you're not self-administered, then when you go to search in your catalog, like I did for Faith's catalog, nothing will show up. So again, you need both sides of the equation. You need to be able to find those uses of your songs and have access to the song registration to propose a match. Otherwise, the tool doesn't really do much. So next year, early next year, we'll put that on the public search, and you'll be able to look at that data like all the other data. And Robert said, thanks, always a pleasure. Aaron had a bounce, hope to see you again. Ash in the chat said, what if an artist changes their artist name? Does that affect getting paid? It can, and this is certainly one of the things that's tricky. So if you were going by Faith Rivera and then you change your name completely, that's a new set of connections that we need to make with those new songs. So just know that anytime you change your name in the digital world, it can have consequences all throughout this whole system. And that's why it's so important to really be intentional about those choices. I always use the example, Prince for a time went by the symbol, and he did that to make a point, and he had lots of representatives that helped him. But I can tell you, as someone who worked in the industry, worked at his record company, that created some massive administrative challenges that had nothing to do with the point he was trying to make. It just made it harder for us to get him paid. And again, he was fine, I'm sure, with that, but it was a trade-off. So yeah, I wouldn't change your name left and right because that can definitely complicate the process. June had two last questions, and I'm going to answer those because they're great ones. What's the difference between Harry Fox Agency, Music Reports, and the MLC? So Music Reports and Harry Fox are companies that still exist, but historically they were hired by digital services like Spotify and Amazon to administer mechanicals for them. So their job was to find you, do a license with you, and then pay you royalties on behalf of those digital services. And while they were great, the system itself was not so great, and a lot of you weren't getting paid. So the MMA essentially said, no, we want to have a single organization that handles all of this administration rather than having to go through different companies or having DSPs do it themselves or maybe not do it at all. So the MLC now administers mechanical royalties for digital audio uses. Before, last year, the year before, those uses may have been administered by Music Reports or Harry Fox. So in some ways, we replaced that part of their business, but each of those companies provides a lot of other services. So what I will tell you is, if you're still getting paid by either of those companies, keep them in your system because they're probably administering other royalties that we can't administer. And you, of course, want to get paid all the royalties you're due. A really great example is video. We are not allowed to administer royalties for video uses. So even though there are audio uses on YouTube, if you have videos on YouTube, that money does not flow through us. It could very well flow through Music Reports or Harry Fox. So you need them for those revenue streams, but for the digital audio mechanicals, we're now the place you get those. And usually if you call Music Reports or HFA, they'll let you know. And one last caveat for HFA, because they had a lot of experience in the business and had a big database, we actually hired them as a vendor, in part to get access to all their data. Because remember, we had to set all of this up in about 18 months. So our database began with Harry Fox's data. Since then, we've added more than 6 million works to the database. So there is a lot more data now in our database than was ever there. And but they still help us do some of the work behind the scenes on the administration side as we continue to stand up our company. So they're a vendor of ours. They're great. We like them. They're really nice and they help. But they're a separate company and they still have a separate set of businesses that have nothing to do with the MLC. And again, if you call us, you're talking to our people. You get MLC support when you call the MLC. So, Charles, we got through all of those questions, and it looks like one or two others kind of slipped in the chat. I see John, again, Sound Exchange administers sound recording royalties. Music Reports may administer some sound recording stuff. I actually don't know, but they have traditionally administered publishing rights. So they're on opposite sides of the business. And if you're a sound recording performer or owner, you need Sound Exchange. You may need Music Reports for some of these other rights on the publishing side that we're not allowed to administer. And then Karen asked, if you own a master recording, but you did a work for hire vocalist, should you register the recording as yours? So again, remember, Karen, we only handle the song, not the master recording. If you wrote the song as a work for hire, which is often what happens when some of you write for TV or sync, you basically sign away that song. You don't have to worry about registering with us because you're no longer going to be receiving mechanicals. Or if you do, you're going to receive them through the company to which you did that work made for hire assignment. So you don't have to worry about it. But if they still pay you a royalty and you see it's missing, by all means, call them and say, hey, you didn't register that song, we're both losing money, right? Because at that point, they should want to get that song registered just as much as you. But if you've done a work for hire, that means you're no longer the owner of the work. You don't have to worry about registering it for us. And sound recordings, totally different. That's the other side of the business. I think the last question, KC, do you, any local economists have any forecasts about how much your talented musicians and composers can make? I don't have that kind of data, and we're not allowed to release that kind of specific data. But what I can tell you generally is that streaming continues to grow. There's a reason why all these people are getting into business and buying catalogs for hundreds of millions of dollars. So I would say the forecast for any songwriter is probably positive, and making sure that all your data is set up with us, all your works are registered, and you're a member of the MLC. That's a really good way to increase your personal forecast or improve your personal forecast. But I'll leave it to you, others, or Charles. I don't know if you know anything about any local kind of forecasts like that only talk about Hawaii market share. I've not heard of that.
Well, the one thing we do know is that the sky is the limit. It's how much creative output you have. So yeah.
And let's be honest, you have one amazing thing going for all of you, and that is that everyone in the world loves Hawaii. And most people in the world won't have the chance to go there in person. But now in a global market, your music can go everywhere in the world. So especially for those of you that write more traditional music, that music has an incredibly wide reach. So yeah, I think the sky is the limit. And our job is to make sure that you get paid anytime that music is streamed in the US, regardless of where. So for all those folks in Maine that love to dream about Hawaii and listen to your songs, every time they do it, we want to make sure you get paid. So join the MLC, and we really look forward to working with you.
Wow,
Any
that was
last
awesome.
questions?
Thank you so much, Chris and Raleigh. Really appreciate it. That was a lot of information and really, really great stuff. I want to also, just in closing here, I want to also once again acknowledge Creative Industries Division of the state of Hawaii and thank them for their support throughout the years. They've just been great support for the Music Immersive as well as the Hawaii Songwriting Festival. And thank all of you, our panelists, Chris and Raleigh. For those attendees, please do check out these artists online, get on their socials, help them out, give them a little push. And thanks for all of you for attending. We're wishing everybody lots of success in the music business, and that's what this is all about. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I guess we'll say aloha. Thank you.
Aloha.